Y'all ready? Hey, brothers and sisters, blessings be upon you, and the power of God rests upon you. You are entering to what we call WNT Wednesday night together. We've had some exciting classes, especially as it relates to the crises in Mark chapter 5, and we stopped at a point in order to really look at the aspects of financial crises, financial deficits, and we've had great presenters. Sister Geraldine presented to us, and Sister Lucian presented to us, and Deacon Monday, he's going to present tonight. He has presented to us, especially as it relates to just dealing with money. You know, there's an old saying, money make you funny. And that is a reality. And a lot of times, you know, money has a way of making you sad too, especially when you don't have any. And then you have a little bit of excitement and gladness whenever there is finances. And so get ready. Deacon Money's going to share with us tonight, coming back again as it relates to this credit thing, which is so powerful, this thing about credit. Well, let's pray. God, in Jesus' name, we thank you for this gathering. We thank you for those that are live streaming and those that are on virtual tonight. Bless us in a special way, God, as we learn more about how to correct the ills of our credit or even our decisions. Maybe sometime not even be a real good steward of our finances. And then help us, oh God, not only to gain knowledge through these classes, but also, God, help us to communicate these things that we're learning with other individuals, because certainly there may be family members who may be struggling as it relates to their credit scores, as it relates to just basic things that need to be done. We thank you so wonderfully for the knowledge that you gave Sister Geraldine, Sister Lucian, and Deacon Monday. Now bless us, God, that we will receive the word of God accordingly, and we'll be careful to give you the praise. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Amen. Deacon Monday, come on, let's celebrate Deacon Monday.
Thank you very kindly, Pastor. Pastor, you said that saying money makes you funny. I had a gentleman that said to me one time, love make the world go around, but money greases the wheel. But anyway, it's my pleasure to be here again today. My name is John Monday. I'm a deacon here at CTC. I'm also an owner, broker of Millennium Realty, which is a local real estate company here in the metro area. We service the entire state of Mississippi. And again, it's my pleasure to be here and present. This is, I've had some more sessions. I started off talking about the importance of home ownership and what it means to us as a people, as what it means to everybody. Talked about the process of home ownership. I also talked about credit. You know, why is credit important to us? And today I'll be doing what I consider part 2 of that, and that's mastering your credit basics and talking about how to improve your credit and so forth. Now, as I start today, I would like to do somewhat of a review, summarize what we went over last time. If you wasn't here, you may have missed some things, but we talked about some different things about, you know, just how to review your credit. You know, how well do you understand your credit? And the thing that we all know, that cash is still king, but credit is power. We talked a little bit about the credit situation in the world today. You know, we're in a credit-driven society, and it's not changing very much in the other way, in the other direction. Also, we had a couple of scriptures. I won't read the scriptures, but I definitely want you to write those down if you didn't get them last time, and read them and meditate on them. Romans chapter 13, verse 8. Psalms chapter 37, verse 21. All right. All right, we talked about why credit scores matter, and we know that because we pay thousands and thousands of dollars as a result of not having good credit. That's giving our money away. Why do you want a good score? There's several different things we talked about, because you have more housing options. It's a better savings as it relates to your interest, like I just said. Even insurance premiums, you can save money. And there's just a plethora of things that can help if you have good credit scores. All right, then we talked about reviewing your credit report, understanding what you're looking at. When you're looking at your credit report, what do you see? What does it say to you? There's 3 credit bureaus we talked about: Experience, Equifax, and TransUnion. All right, and so you can get an annual report from each one of those. All you have to do to go online to each one of them, name Equifax.com, Experience.com, or TransUnion.com. Or you can go to annualcreditreport.com and get all 3 of them at once. All right? Then we talked about when you review your credit, what are you looking at? What's on your credit report? All your personal information is on there. Social Security number, your date of birth, your address, your place of employment, etc. So all of those things are on there. Your credit history, your payment history, etc. How you paid. Public records are on there. Bankruptcies, judgments, liens, things of that nature are on your credit report. All right? Then we talked about just some basic credit facts. You should check your credit report. You can pull it. It's called soft pull when you pull it yourself. All right? We need to know those things, because how do you know how you're doing credit-wise if you're not monitoring your credit? Only way you can monitor your credit is that you got to be able to pull it. You got to see what's going on with it. There are several free sites that are available to you. You can use to pull your credit report and keep an eye on it. All right. Then we talk about FICA. FICA means Fair Isaac Company. There's a company that came up with the software with the formula to come up with our credit score. That's what FICA means. Okay. And then we talked about the different chemistry in terms of how they come up with our credit scores. First is payment history. That's the most impactful. Second is the amount owed. That's how much credit you use. That's on credit cards. If you're maxing out your credit card, we know that's a bad thing. Then the third thing is the length of credit. Okay, you want credit, you want old accounts. You want your accounts to be old. You want your accounts to mature, that kind of thing. Then you got types of credit. Your credit scoring needs to see different types of credit. They want to see an auto loan, a car loan, mortgage, credit cards. They like to see a variety, okay? And then you got new credit, and that's credit that you're getting if for the first time. It's 10% of your total score. But understanding that is very important. Then it gives you a range so you can know where you are right now. In order to know where you're going to go, you definitely need to know where you are right now as it relates to a score. And it gives you a range in how they look at your score, whether it's bad, fair, good, very good, or excellent. Okay? All right, then we talked about the average credit score in America, which is 710. We also looked at where we are on the totem pole as a race of people in terms of our credit score. Now, we're at the bottom of the totem pole. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. Now, all this means to us is that we just got more room for improvement. That's all. Okay, and we can do it, but it is unacceptable for us to be there. And we can only start one at a time. Start with ourselves and work our way, and hopefully it sparks some more improvement in as it relates to us as a race, okay? All right, and then we talked about how to protect your credit score. Pay your debts on time. Apply for new credit only when you need it. Don't co-sign unless you absolutely have to. All right, consider keeping your starter cards open. Just because they're old and have high interest rate, don't shut them down, okay? Guard your personal information with your life. Regularly monitor all your accounts and keep balances low on your credit cards. All right, here's two more scriptures that if you write them down and you can read them and meditate over them later. Romans chapter 13, verse 7. And Proverbs chapter 22, verse 26. Both of those talk about, I know one of them talks about co-signing. but it's very interesting scriptures, and you know, we are so blessed to have a word of God that guides us as our manual on things that we encounter in life. All right? Now, today is where we start at. That was a review. Today is where we're going to start at. We're talking about improving your credit score. Improving your credit score. All right? I do want to say, take this time to say, I invite questions. Please ask me questions. I would love to answer those questions. The question you ask may not only help you, it may help someone else. So if you have a question, let me see if I can bring some clarity to it, if I may. All right? Improving your credit score. First thing, remember your payment history is the number one thing, okay? So try to make timely payments, okay? Delinquent or late payments have a dramatic impact on your credit score. So as best you can, try not to miss a payment. One missed payment could have a dramatic impact on your credit score depending on how high your score is in the beginning. And it's interesting because the higher your score is, the farther you fall down, okay? So try to make timely payments. Mixed payments, okay? Missed payments, I'm sorry. If you're able to stay consistent, that's what you want to do, because that's the big part of being consistent. And any payment that that goes to collection, any payment that went through collections and has been paid off stays on your report. So you want to stay away from any kind of collections, okay? Any kind of collections that you have, do whatever you can to stay away from collection, because they won't come off your credit score. All right? And if you are struggling, if you're struggling to make payments, call your creditor. Don't just not make your payment. Let them know whatever your hardship is. See if they can help you. Don't just sit there. So if you are struggling to make payments for whatever reason, call your creditor. And 9 times out of 10, they'll try to work with you, okay? Especially if you have a history. There's the mic right there in front of you, Minister. Look right behind, right there. All right, she's. Yes.
To collection, I told you last week something with collection. I had no idea about it. Mm-hmm. You said it won't come off.
No, it won't come off by itself. No, it's
Oh,
scheduled
okay.
to be
So
on there
just-
for 7 years, unless there's some way that you can get it off. If you can cut some kind of deal, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. But generally, it stays on your credit report for 7 years.
Even if you go ahead and handle that. That's
Even
what I
if you
said.
pay it. Even if you pay it.
So you might as well not pay it.
And that's a good, hey, you're saying that, but that's true. And I'm going to get into that. You're absolutely right. It could hurt you to pay it off. Okay. Deacon, did you have a question? You got the mic? Get that mic right there.
You know, it won't come off, but you answered my question, you said stay on that 7 years.
Yes, sir.
And that all bad credit, it stays on your record 7 years?
Yeah, that's the normal time frame, but things like bankruptcies and foreclosure can stay on up to 10.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sister, pass her the mic. Don't cut it out. Leave it on.
On that collection, when they turn it over, it's like it's after 30. They keep their bill for like 30 days, or if that bill is like, why do they turn it over?
To a collection agency?
Yeah, when do they turn it over?
Okay, here's the thing about creditors. All of them have different regulations as it relates to when they turn it over to a collection agency.
yes.
Usually about 90 days is average. When you've been delinquent for about 90 days, that's when they'll turn it over to a collection agency, usually. But some creditors are different. Some of them might be a little quicker than others.
Yeah, some is 30, I think.
Right. Some creditors don't want to deal with it at all.
Oh,
They don't even, if once you're late, they're gonna sell it to a collection agency and wipe their hand. But some of them try their best to collect. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
It's on.
I was about to say I didn't turn. I called the company because I told you I had no idea that this was on my record.
Uh-huh.
And I called them, and they said if I go ahead and take care of it, they was gonna take it off.
Right.
So you said they don't take it off. So
No. Understand what I said. Make sure. Let's be clear.
Okay.
Normally, typically, it stays on your report for 7 years. That's what it's designed to do. But a creditor can take it off at any time if they decide to. And I was going to make mention of it later. It's called payment for deletion. You can do what we call a payment for deletion. You can tell your creditor, look, if I pay this debt off, will you take it off? Now, understand this. It's at their discretion. Okay? They don't have to take it off. Okay? It's going to be at their discretion. But the general rule of thumb is anytime you have a collection, unless you get it taken off, it's going to stay on your credit report for 7 years. Okay? All right. Any more questions? And also, if you're out there on social media, just make a comment, ask a question. We'll read your question. We'll try to answer. Did I answer all of y'all questions? Okay. Yeah. Now those are good questions because there's so many myths about this credit score. How long does it stay on? How does it come off? And it's so many different things. So those are good questions. Okay. All right. Let's talk about types of credit. All right. Like I said before, the credit bureau likes to see a variety of different credits. All right. They want to see a car loan. They want to see a house payment. All of this helps your credit score. They like a variety. It increases your credit score. That's why it says types of credit score. And also rent. You know, this is something that's relatively new. Now you can get credit for rent. Now, every landlord does not do that, okay? Most of the time you have to request, if you want your rent payments to be monitored or reported to the credit agency, you have to make a request. A lot of the small landlords don't do it. So you'll have to find, there's different what we call rent service companies that you can call and put your landlord in contact with them. And your landlord can report it every month and it can go on your credit report. In the past, every time we seen something as it relates to rent, it was collection or judgment, you know, and that was the big cry. The same thing with utilities. If you see utilities on somebody's credit report, that means it's in collection. That means you got a judgment or something like that. Okay. All right. It says using your credit card. You know, we talked about this. Somebody asked this question the other day. They said they didn't want to get a credit card. Well, credit cards give you the most points. You do need credit cards. It's a revolving piece of credit, and it's one of the few things they can really see what kind of spending habits you got. So you do need them, but you got to manage them. You can't just go haywire with them because you got, and that's the temptation. You got to think about it. It's tempting. You know, you see something you really like and you got $1,000 credit limit, you know. So you just got to be disciplined with that, okay? That's one of the things. And now, this is one that is really a shame, but you will be surprised how many parents use their children's Social Security number and mess their credit up. That is not the way to operate. That is putting your child at a terrible disadvantage, and it happens all the time. I can't count how many people have sat down in front of me and said, my mom did this to my credit, I didn't know about it. My dad did this to my credit. I had no knowledge until I started looking at my credit. And that's just a shame that we do that. That's not the way to go, okay? And we all know that. I'm going to say just like Mama Shirley, I got this from Mama Shirley a long time ago. She said, a lot of people do that, but we wouldn't do that. I know we wouldn't do nothing like that. We wouldn't do nothing like that. But that stuff happens, but that kind of stuff is not going to be beneficial, all right? All right? Now, we don't need to close accounts. That's another thing that has hurt us bad because we didn't have knowledge. Even if that account has high interest rates, annual fees, or whatever it is, it's going to be more detrimental to you if you close that account. Okay, so just keep that in mind, all right? And you definitely need revolving. Now, let me say this. If you do have credit cards and you got them at zero balance, at some point you got to get them active, okay? If they sit dormant for 6 months, then they may automatically close them. So go get your tank of gas or two, just to keep them going, all right? And new credit, only apply for credit cards when you need them. Don't apply for credit cards if you really don't need them. If you have circumstances that you do need new credit, of course, if you're rebuilding, you just got out of something bad, you need to rebuild your credit. That's different. But just to be getting them, that is not what you want to do, okay? All right. Check your statement. Check your credit card statement. You'll be surprised of errors. People make errors.
That's right.
If you don't check your statement, how do you know? You may have a charge on there that you didn't even charge. You may have a fee on there that you shouldn't have on there. Now, and then a lot of times these credit card statements, they have late fees on there, right? If you simply call them and talk to them, they'll remove some of those fees. But if you just sit there, guess what? You're going to pay those fees. Call these people. Don't be afraid of them. And check your credit report. I can't stress this enough. Get one of these free credit reporting agencies. Check your credit every month at least. See what's going on. Monitor your credit so you'll know what's going on. All right, now, there's also errors. We talked about errors on your statement, right? There's also errors on your credit report. They make errors as well. Some of your creditors may make an error on your statement. So you must collect evidence if you're going to dispute it. You just can't say, hey, that's not right. You got to figure out a way to justify what you're saying. And they got, on some of these reporting agencies, you can dispute online. You can, especially on annualcreditreport.com, you can actually dispute an account online. You don't have to write a letter. Now, some of the other ones, you may have to send a letter of dispute. Now, what do we put in that letter, right? That's the question. How do we dispute something? This is the beauty of what's going on in the world today. Online, you can find sample dispute letters in any form that you want. Just type in, I want to dispute that this is not my account. You'll have a sample letter. All you got to do is plug in your name and change a few other things, and there your letter is. And when you send those dispute letters in, don't send it to one of the agencies. Send it to all three: Experience, TransUnion, and Equifax. The same letter. You can Xerox it. Well, you can't Xerox because you got to put their name on it. But send them the same letter with the same evidence. But never dispute a file without some kind of evidence or some kind of explanation of what you're doing. Okay? The reporting agency has 30 days to verify whatever it is that you're disputing. Okay? And in the meantime, they're supposed to temporarily take it off. All right? Until they get to the bottom of it. All right? So you have to monitor that. All right? If the reporting agency is unable to verify whatever it is you're disputing, they are required to take it off your credit report. All right? They are required to take it off your credit report. Now, also, when you are disputing, if what you said and they cannot verify it and they have to go back and correct it, they have to send, you can request this, they don't have to. you can request that anybody that has pulled your credit in the last 6 months, that they'll send them a corrected version of their credit report. Okay? If you find that they can't verify whatever it is you're disputing, you can request that the bureaus go back and look at your inquiries and send a corrected version of your credit report back to anybody who ever pulled it in the last 6 months, up to 6 months. Any questions about that? Dispute. You can dispute. You got to pay attention to your credit, know what's on there and what should be on there, what shouldn't be on there. All right? Now, let's talk about what is bankruptcy. All right? Now, here's the thing about bankruptcy. It has a negative connotation. We all know that. But it's being more commonly used now than it ever been before. People are casually filing bankruptcy, which in my opinion is a no-no. Bankruptcy should definitely be the last resort if you're having some financial trouble. It's got to be the very last resort. And then let me say this. People are using bankruptcy to clean up their credit. It can't make sense. You can't use bankruptcy to clean up your credit. How can you take the worst mark that you can put on your credit report and call yourself cleaning up the credit with it? Bankruptcy is the worst thing that can go on your credit report. So how in the world could it actually clean up your credit? It can't. It makes it worse. Yes, ma'am. You have to do 7 years? Uh-huh. Before it comes off your report? Yeah, it says your discharge date. So you don't get discharged after 5 years. So it can stay on there even. But no, I take that back. I'm sorry. That's incorrect. They've changed that from the time that you file. So it would be 2 years that you would have to wait. It used to be on the discharge date. You're talking about a chapter 13, but they've changed that. It's on the filing date when your clock starts ticking. All right? Now, here again, go ahead, Deacon.
What is the difference between a 13 and a chapter 7?
All right, a chapter 7 is a complete wipeout. Bankruptcy. Chapter 7 bankruptcy is a complete wipeout. A chapter 13 is a payment plan, consolidation payment plan. All right? The 7 is the complete wipeout. 13 is the repayment plan, rather. All right? Now, I'm not saying there's not situations where bankruptcy is necessary. There are situations where people get creditors start coming after them, garnishing their checks, and they can't live, with the money coming out. It's circumstances that you do have to file bankruptcy, but to clean up your credit, don't do it. Why? But number one, because bankruptcy stay on your credit report for 10 years, unless you can get them taken off, and that's extremely hard to do. That's one of the hardest things you can do. If you can get a court to take a bankruptcy off your credit, you're a good one. It's extremely hard to do. All right? Here's another reason. Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I know this young lady that was having problems paying her bills.
Uh-huh.
And what she did, she and her husband rather, what she did, she called the people that she owed, and they gave her 0 interest on those bills, where it was like 2 or 3 credit cards that they had maxed, and they gave her a 0 interest rate to make it easier to pay the bills off.
Right. And most creditors will try to work with you. Not all of them will, especially if you have a history of making on-time payments and they see, wow, something must have happened. Okay, most creditors will try to work with you. Now, if you've never paid them, since you got the card, now you're gonna have some difficulties, okay? But they try to work with you. But let me tell you another thing about bankruptcy. Child support, spousal support, um, your student loans, back taxes, none of those things can be put into your bankruptcy. So you can't get rid of those. Those are hard to get rid of. They won't even let you file on a bankruptcy, all right? So just keep that in mind, especially tell your children, don't load themselves up with those student loans. Get only what you need. Only what you need. A lot of people have abused student loans for free, what they thought was free money, and it came back to bite them when they got grown. So that's a conversation you need to have with your children. And child support, you can't get away. You're going to have to pay it in one way or the other. And I just talked about the different forms of bankruptcy. Let me say this while I'm talking about bankruptcy. Chapter 13, in my opinion, that's one that you really want to stay out of. You know, why put a bankruptcy on your credit report when you can probably call your creditors yourself and come up with a repayment plan, right? You could probably call them and say, look, I can pay such and such a month. Because you're going to have to come up with some money every month on a bankrupt 13. Yeah, you're going to have to pay a monthly repayment premium every month. So why do that and get that bankruptcy on your credit report? Now, you got to think about a bankruptcy. Let me say this, and I'm going to move on. If a creditor sees that you file a Chapter 7 on your bankruptcy, you think they'll be willing to give you some credit? Because they know you'll wipe them out in a minute, right? Right. So they're going to run from you. So that's how potent a Chapter 7 bankruptcy is. Only file that if it's absolutely necessary. That's the hardest thing to come back from. No doubt about it. Any questions? All right. And this is mainly some of the stuff I said before. If you're unable to make your payments, call somebody. You know, that's one of the biggest problems we have. People run from the creditors when they call. When you're having problems, you need to be bugging them because you want to protect your credit score. So what can I do, Mr. Visa? What can I do to to protect my credit and to satisfy my debt with you? You know, what can we come up with? Do not run from them. Call them because it's only going to make it worse. No doubt about that. All right, before you file, give yourself a chance. See if you can figure out where you can cut corners somewhere and have a little money to pay that debt off. Even if you just only pay $5 a month, $25 a month till you get on your feet before you file a bankruptcy. Because remember, that thing won't come off for 10 years. And the negative impact it had when people see it is what's really the thing, okay? Talk to your creditors, all right? And consider some debt consolidation before you file bankruptcy. Another thing we don't think about, a lot of times we have things around our house we could sell. You could sell something to give your creditor, a lump sum of money for right now. And they may say, okay, if you give me this, I'll let you pay me this for the next 6 months till you get past your hardship. Yeah. So there's all kind of different things you can do to try to avoid filing for bankruptcy. That's just not what you want to do if you can help it. All right, the impact. Now, we're just talking about credit when it comes to bankruptcy. Bankruptcy has even more impact than just credit. It could stop you from getting the job you want. Some people pull your credit, and especially public record, they can go and access it without even your authorization. They can find out. Your insurance rate may increase. It may be difficult for you to get an apartment. They really look at that kind of stuff, okay? When the apartments, rental units, all of those, they're looking at your credit report, and they're looking for how you reacted to different situations. Did you file a bankruptcy? Did you go back and pay one of your old debts? Stuff like that. Utility companies can go back, all of that stuff. And always remember, I can't say it enough, stays on your report for 10 years. All right? These are things that can negatively impact your credit. charge off accounts, okay? They will hurt your score, no doubt about it. The minute they charge off, you're gonna see a dip, like they say, falling off a cliff. You're gonna see a dip in your credit score immediately. Yes, sir.
What is charge off?
Charge off is when a creditor has deemed your account uncollectible, meaning that you are in default and that they feel that they cannot collect. You have not you have not called them, made any kind of arrangements or anything like that, so they feel like right now, they can't collect it. So they charge it off on their taxes, write it off as what we call a loss. All right? It reports for 7 years, as we talked about earlier, unless you can get it off by means of communicating with your creditor. You see, all these things can only happen if you do what? Talk to your creditors. If you run from them, you can't get nothing taken off. You can't get no payment plan. They can even do deferments on credit cards. They can put your payment on or your interest on the back end. There's so many different things creditors can do to help you when you are in a hardship, but you got to communicate with them. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, this same young lady had something on her account, and she said they did a charge off. But if she go back and talk to them or something, can she, make some kind of a payment arrangement? Will that come off of her credit score?
Now, remember, it's at the lender's, the creditor's discretion whether or not they take it off.
Okay.
But that's possible.
Oh, okay.
That's certainly possible.
Yeah.
If she talked to them, that's possible. Anything is possible when you're negotiating. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm gonna mention.
Let me just say this. Put yourself in a creditor's position, and let's say somebody called you and they said, "Okay, I got a debt of $1,000. Can you work with me?" And you said, "No, I can't work with you." And so, okay, I'm just going to have to file a Chapter 7 where you get zero. You see what I mean? So when you're negotiating, you more have to say, okay, wait a minute, I can work with you a little bit, because 10% of something better than 100% of nothing, right? Yeah, because if a person files a Chapter 7, that means that creditor gets zero. So they want to work with you because they know what people are doing. They know people are filing bankruptcy on them, all right? So just talk to them. Now, when an account is charged off, it's going to do one or two things, okay? They're either going to sell it to a collection agency, or they're going to file a judgment against you. Usually, the higher the charge-off is, the more likely it is they'll file a judgment, okay? And a judgment is basically when they're trying to sue you for their money. When they sell it to a collection agency, they more than likely wipe their hands from it. There are collection agencies out there that go around just purchasing bad debt to collect, okay? And so those are the ones that's going to be calling you and bugging you and doing all this stuff, and you can't cut deals with them because they want to get something out of the deal. They paid for the account. They want to get something. Any questions? These things definitely will hurt your credit score, all right? All right, paying the charge off. This is something I wanted to get back to because I think you mentioned that. You said, why should I pay it at all if it's going to stay on there for 7 years? That's a good question. All right, now, here's the thing. If you do pay it, it does look better on your account than an outstanding balance. If you get a paid charge off, looks better than an unpaid charge off when a creditor looks at your credit, okay? Because that means in good faith you paid it off. Also, you can negotiate these pay. If you owe them $1,000, you may say, wait a minute, I got $500 I can pay if you'll let me satisfy this account. That's 50 cents on the dollar. Now, I'm going to say this, then I'm going to get your question. Do not pay them until you get it in writing. If you don't do that, they'll take your $500 and say you still owe me $500 more. Get it in writing. Get it if they're not willing to give it to you in writing. What are they saying? They may not agree to it. If you agree to something, you can send me a quick email, right? If you can't send a quick email, I'm going to say, wait a minute, hold up. That's a red flag, but go right ahead.
Yeah, so I'm gonna reiterate what you said. So, like I said, it was $300, something I didn't even know. So you telling me that I could negotiate with them, even if it's not but $300?
Absolutely.
They didn't tell me that.
Absolutely. You can negotiate if it's $50. Tell them you got 25.
That ain't fair. They never told me.
Now, when I say you can negotiate, I'm not saying they're going to agree to it, but they will talk to you about it. They do it all the time. They make settlements all the time, but you won't know if you don't what? If you don't ask. You got to ask. They will negotiate, but remember the most important part is what? Do not pay until you get it in writing. If your agreement is you can pay $500 and that satisfies that $1,000 debt, do not pay them. Ask them, ma'am, sir, please send me something in writing to that effect. You can shoot me a quick email. I just need a paper trail. Do not pay it until you get it in writing. Now, back to your question, Minister. Paying it off will not wipe it off your credit. That's not how it works. You got to ask them to take it off. Just because a lot of people think when they pay off a charge off, it automatically wipes it off, and I paid it off. It shouldn't be on my credit anymore, right? But no, that's a part of your payment history now. Okay? Only way it comes off is that you get them to take it off. Yes, ma'am.
Well, she did tell me if I take care of it by the 15th, which I've set that up already, that she would take it off my credit report.
Okay. Ask her if she would be so kind to put that in writing for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask her to
Just
lower,
for your records.
I'm gonna ask her to lower the amount too.
Right. You can't do that. But ask her to do what we call, it's a term used, payment for deletion. Okay? I pay you this bad debt and you delete it as if it never showed on my credit before. Okay? Now there's a difference in showing it's zero balance. It's paid off, then being deleted. When it's a zero balance, that means you did good, you paid it off, but it's still there. When you delete it, when somebody pulls your credit, they can't tell it was ever there. They never see it again. So you ask for the deletion, a payment for deletion. All right? And I'm going to tell you something else, all right? Now, this, you don't want to hear this, but paying an old collection can actually hurt your credit score big time. Let me tell you why. It's good to pay it, right? That's the good faith effort. But when you got a old charge-off account that's been laying dormant for a few years, then you go and pay it off, it wakes it up. It's like you're waking somebody up from the dead. And then that you get a new date of last activity. It becomes like it's a new current debt. So
if it's like 6 months, it shouldn't.
I'm going to say maybe over a year or two. That's considered old debt. If it's 6 months, go ahead and pay it off. But if it's been laying dormant, see, let me tell you how credit works. When you have a derogatory account that's charged off, your major impact is on the initial side of it. All right? The older it gets, it's less impactful, okay? And then you get 3 years down the road, it ain't really affecting your credit score that much now. But when you go and pay it 3 years later, you wake it back up. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So so you have to make a calculated decision as it relates to whether you want to pay that or not, okay? Don't just run up there and pay it. You need to look at it or talk to somebody or consultate with somebody that know and give you good advice.
Even if you pay it off, it still hurt you?
Yes, it can hurt you if it's
pay it completely off.
Yeah, if you pay it completely off and it's an old account that hadn't been disturbed, it's over there dead, been laying dead for a long time, and you wake it up, it's going to show the date of last activity is going to be that current date when your date of last activity was 3 years ago. You see what I mean? They use that term, date of last activity. Meaning that, remember 3 years ago, the last time you paid something on it, right?
Right.
So it's been laying dormant. It hadn't moved. And the longer it lays there, the less impact it has on your score. Until you go and pay it.
When you go
And then it's like it's a new old derogatory debt again.
That'll come on your credit report.
Right. Mm-hmm. Interesting, huh? But see, all this stuff we need to know because we'll run up there and pay it. Now, if it's 6 months old or less than a year, I'm going to say go pay it. But if it's an old one and this done did all this damage, it's gone. Unless it's a large amount, I probably wouldn't mess with it. Anything over $1,000, you may consider it because it could turn into a judgment. Now, I'm saying this, but every situation is different. I want you to make sure you make your own calculated decision on that, all right? All right, how to get collections off, we just said that. One of them is we said ask for a deletion, payment for deletion, right? Another one is you can pay a collection agency. Collection agencies are in the business to make money. They bought the debt. Go ahead.
Yeah, what I was going to ask is, this actually happened a year ago, but they just put it on the on your credit history. Right. So how's that?
Okay, that's probably a collection agency now. See, you got what we call the original creditor. Let me give you an example, which is Entergy. That's the original creditor. That's who somebody owed and they never did pay him. But as some ABC collection agency is going to buy that same debt from them, and it's going to be listed on the ABC, but it's still an old Entergy bill. They bought it from Entergy and say, Entergy, they owe you $100. We're going to pay you $20 for it, and maybe we can collect $40 out of it, and we make a profit. That's our business, you know what I mean? But collection agencies, like I said before, are in the business to make money. So if you got a debt with the collection agency, let's say it's $100, and you know that this has really, really hurt your credit score, right? You had a 700 credit score, now it's dropped it down to 580. And it could happen, just one thing like that. You call that collection agency and say, look, I'll pay you an extra $100 if you delete it from my credit report. But remember what you got to do before you pay him. Get it in writing. Do not pay without getting it in writing. Then you can settle debt. We just talked about that, man. So you can settle debt by asking them to cut a deal with you. Get it in writing. Then you can do what we call debt validation. You can try to you can ask them to validate whether or not this is even your account, okay? Then you got the dispute, the 623 dispute. That's when you can dispute the creditor themselves. If it's JCPenney, you can you can send a dispute letter directly to the creditors. Normally, you don't dispute directly to the creditor, you dispute to the credit bureau and let them communicate with the creditor, with JCPenney. But they got this 623 dispute allows you to send a letter directly to them disputing whatever it is you think that's not valid. Then, of course, you can get it off by disputing the credit bureau. And that's all. You've heard of these credit repair companies. You got, what is that, Lexington Law. You got all these other little small credit repair companies. That's all they're doing. They're disputing. They're making them validate all this stuff over and over. And they can really get collection agencies because they don't have good paper. They don't have good files. So all they got to do is say, hey, can you send me this on the file? If they can't send it in 30 days, they got to take it out. So that's all they do. Lexington Law, they charge you $99 a month, but they're disputing to get things off your credit report. Next slide for me, please. All right. Now, here's some things that I think are really important. We need to talk about that can negatively affect your credit score. We take them for granted. They can get you. They sneak up on people. All right? Child support, delinquent child support hurts your credit. When it's on your credit report, it's going to be delinquent and it's going to hurt you. Defaulted student loans. You know, those are two that are more common than the rest of them. utility bill collection. People think they can just walk away from an apartment or somewhere without paying. It's going to come back to you on your credit report, okay? It's going to hit your credit report. All right, medical bills. Don't take that for granted. If you owe, you know, here's the thing about it, the medical bills don't count as much as they used to back in the past. Here's the thing, if you do have a medical bill or something your insurance didn't cover, you can just pay them a little bit. You know, my dad used to pay some of his medical, he paid $2 a month, you know, just to keep them from going into collection, showing a good faith effort to pay something on them, okay? All right, not paying your rent. You get mad at the landlord and walk out and you think, okay, you hurt them. Guess what? You'll see that again on a judgment on your credit report. Now, you could have paid the landlord $500, but you got mad and said they doing you wrong, blah, 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 and you left. Now it's turning to $2,500 because you got penalties, you got court costs, you got all this stuff, and now you can't buy a house, or you get this, you go to buy a car, you paying $5,000 extra because your credit score is low, and you're paying a high interest. So you're losing. We think we're winning a battle, but we're losing the war. So you got to be real careful that you got to weigh that. Do I need to pay this $500 or I'm going to let them hurt my credit? Then when I go pay for a $20,000 car, my interest rate is 10%. And over 5 years, that may be $5,000. Now, you went from $500 you could have paid to paying somebody $5,000. It doesn't make sense. We throw away money a lot of times, okay? Now, also, let's take, for instance, an old gym membership. A lot of times we think, oh, we have old gym membership, and I close that account or whatever, I can just walk away. It ain't going to hurt me. Then when you get ready to go buy something, I'm finna buy me a house. Your credit score is 550. Man, my credit score was 650. What happened? There that old gym membership would show up. Collection, charge off. We take that little stuff for granted all the time. Bank drafts. We overdraft, then we walk away. People do, I've seen it a million times. I know what I'm talking about because I've seen it so many times. And then when they pull their credit, they be like they're shocked. You can see their eyebrows go up. You got to pay attention to these small things because they're going to come back. They're going to get you. Banks will not let you get away. It's going to be on your credit report. You can believe that. Okay? Next slide for me. All right, now I'm going to give you a couple of things that you can do. I'm going to drop a couple of gems on you here. If you've had a good, let's say you've had an impeccable credit history with somebody. You've paid them for 3 years straight, everything was good, and something happened. Because like I always say, bad things happen to good people sometimes. Even believers. Sometimes we have things happen to us, right? If there's a thing called a goodwill letter that you can put together, send to that creditor. You can say to the creditor, look, I've had impeccable payment history with you over 3 years, but something just happened. I lost my job, and I missed one payment. I'm working now. Because that one payment can knock 50 points off your credit score. But you say, look, I'm working now. I can pay it. I just need you to give me a good mark on that 60 or that 30-day late. Because they'll see, well, they say, okay, well, let's look at your history. They see you've been paying good. A lot of times they'll go back and take that red mark off your credit report, showing that you had a late payment. It's called a goodwill letter. Now, if you don't know what goes in the goodwill letter, just Google it. They got samples of goodwill letters. All you got to do is just plug in your name and the creditor's name and go from there. But it happens all the time, only if you communicate with them. Only if you communicate with them. Also, if you're having credit struggles, you can be an authorized user on one of your family members' credit card. Now, the family member may not actually give you a card because they know what you're going to do with it. But they can put you on as an authorized user. Let me give an example. I've seen a person that had a 500 credit score. Their mother allowed them to go on as an authorized user. She had a credit card she'd had for over 10 years, never had a missed payment, and she had very low utilization rate. Maybe like a $2,000 or $3,000 limit. She only owed about $25 on it. When it hit his credit, he was immediately at a 670 because he got all of her age because she let the credit card come to his report. Interesting. Yes, absolutely. People can let you go on as what we call an authorized user. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now, and a lot of people think, oh, if I let her be an authorized person, that I got to put a card in their name. No, you control that. You don't have to put a card in their name. All right. Let's see. Next slide for me. All right. Is that the last one? Okay. All right. This is this concludes basically my presentation, and it was my pleasure to do it. I want to leave you with a couple of questions I want you to think about. All right. What was the most important information that was covered in this session? Both sessions, this one and last week. What do you think was the most important thing that we covered in this session? And then I want you to think about one action item that you're going to employ to make sure that your credit improves. What is one action that you're going to do as a result of what we talked about these last two sessions to make your credit better? And I want to encourage everybody to share this information. Credit is simple. It sounds like it's difficult, but it can be real simple. Pay your bills on time. Don't use your credit card. Keep your balances low. Don't open up new accounts unless you really have to. Okay? And let me see, what else is it? You don't want to co-sign. It's simple stuff that can help you. Credit doesn't have to be difficult. We make it difficult. If you just follow some of these routine things, your credit score will be just fine. Okay? A lot of this other stuff, the main thing is there's three things that I really think that are big killers here, and that's paying on time. If you can't pay on time, call the people. That's not rocket science. Call them, cut a deal with them. Keep your balances low. Don't just go out buying stuff, splurging because you can. Use it for emergency purposes. Emergency purpose only. And don't go around closing your accounts. Those are the things I see people doing more than anything else. So we can keep it simple and share that information with our children, our grandchildren, because they don't get this information anywhere else. It is available online, but they don't teach them in school. They don't teach them in college. These are called life skills. All this stuff that we've talked about these last 6 weeks, is it 6? No, it's more like 8 weeks, right, Pastor? More like 8 weeks. These are life skills, and they have an impact on our quality of life. And we got to start taking these things serious. As a race of people, I want to say this. We're on the bottom of the totem pole in a lot of places, but we got to start somewhere, get some improvement, and we start by giving information to our little ones, okay, sharing information. The information that we may have not have gotten, we need to share that information with our children. All right, thank you very much. Yeah, one more question, go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned about the authorized user.
Yeah.
Can just say if I wanted to add somebody without them knowing it, can you do that?
I think you got to have some of their information, like they need Social Security number.
But they're not going to have a card anyway, right?
Yeah, they may not. You can. I'm not sure about that, but I know you got to have their personal information because you got to have that in order for it to go on their report.
I just wanted to help them. That's all.
Right. Yeah, maybe a good idea to let them know, though. Yeah. But yeah, you probably could if you got all their information. You could probably help them and they not know it. All right, thank you very kindly.
these classes that we've been receiving and information that we've been getting is very, very important. You know, many times in life we just never know how much stress we can really alleviate simply by having information. Because sometimes even with credit, people feel like they're at the end of their road. They can't do anything. You know, they think that they're going to have to live with that, you know, for the rest of their lives. But there are things that you can do. And so we are certainly grateful. Who would have thought that from the 5th chapter of the Gospel according to St. Mark, and a woman basically with a physical illness and issue of blood for 12 long years, with just her and the word of God acknowledging that she has spent everything she had, didn't get better, but even grew worse, that this much information would come from this. Now, her crisis was a physical crisis, but that physical crisis led to what? A financial deficit crisis. And how many of us know that it doesn't take a whole lot of things to really put us in a financial dilemma? It really doesn't take a whole lot of things to put us in a situation to where we're behind on 60, 70% of our bills based upon one thing that transpired. And so this has really been helpful. Come on again, let's celebrate Deacon Money. And come on, let's celebrate Lucian. And come on, let's celebrate Geraldine. And so we're gonna resume back with our sense of crises, and I'm going to deal with just the simple fact of stewardship, just simple fact of stewardship, because out of everything that we've heard, it really boils down to decision making. That's what it really boils down to, decision making as it relates to a lot of things that we are experiencing. So we look forward to that. Thank God for each of you that are here. I'm going to ask Deacon Wiley if he would close us in a word of prayer. Deacon Wiley. Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. So much. God blessings be upon everybody.